everybody, it's Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company, and as most of you know, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and I try to do something that brings awareness to that, but to be honest, everything I make, if you make it in a different color, then it services a different kind of illness, and so don't be afraid to change out the colors. So I am super excited to share with you my quilt for this year. This year we've come out with a panel, and it's called Words Have Power. And I am a firm believer that words have power, and that words help you get through things. So let's look at the quilt behind me. So I firmly believe 100% that words have power, and you never know what word you'll need per day. And so there are 48 different words, and we have chosen 30 to use on this quilt that will hopefully bring hope or courage or help you to feel calm, or maybe you just need to take a breath. But all these words are on here. We've used a pattern by Charisma Horton, and it's called Lovely. And hers is actually a heart pattern, and the center of the heart is filled in with a square, but that's where we have chosen to put our word. So let me show you how to make this. So to make this quilt, you're going to need one packet of 10-inch squares, and we have used Hope and Heart Batiks by Kathy Engel for Island Batiks. You're going to need a Words Have Power panel. You're going to need some background. You're going to need 2 1/4 yards. For your outer border, you're going to need 1 1/4 yards, and that is a 4 1/2-inch border. And for your backing, you're going to need 4 yards, and we've used this lovely rose. You're also going to want to use Charisma Horton's pattern, Lovely. So let me show you how to make this quilt. I'm going to walk you through Charisma's pattern. It's called Lovely, and it is lovely. And she, of course, includes the square here for the center of the heart, which makes a beautiful quilt. But we have for you all these words. And so, what we're going to do is we're going to take our 10-inch square, and we're going to cut the pieces we need out of that for our heart. And we're going to cut 2 2 1/2-inch strips like this. Let me scoot this back a little bit. We'll move that over. And another 2 1/2-inch strip like this. And then we're going to turn it, and I'm going to cut 2 2 1/2-inch squares. So this should be a 2 1/2 by 5-inch rectangle. And we're going to just cut these in half like this. So we have 2 squares right here. And then up here, you're going to need 4 4 1/2 by 2 1/2-inch rectangles. Let me just look over here. So we're going to go 4 1/2 from the side. And there's 2, and then we need 4 1/2 again, and these are the other 2. Set that aside. And normally you'd cut your center square out of this piece right here, but we don't need that center square, so we're just going to set this aside for now. And then we're going to cut some background pieces. And what I did with mine, because we need several different sizes, I just cut out of my background some strips. So I have a 1 1/2-inch strip, a 2-inch strip, and a 2 1/2-inch strip. And so out of the 2 1/2, let's start there. Out of the 2 1/2, we're going to need some 2 1/2 by 4 1/2-inch rectangles and 2 1/2 by 4 1/2-inch squares. So anytime I'm cutting 2 1/2, I like to use my 2 1/2 ruler. So I'm just going to trim off my selvage, and I'm going to cut a couple of squares right here. And then I'm going to cut a couple of the rectangles here, 4 1/2. There we go. 1 there, and then let's stretch this out here. And I like that even when your fabric has a fold in it, when you lay that ruler down, it straightens everything out. Out of our 2-inch piece, our 2-inch strip, you're going to need 2 by 8 1/2-inch pieces. Now these are for the sashing pieces. I'm going to cut my selvage off, and then we're going to cut this at 8 1/2. Right here. So we'll need those pieces. We are also going to need some 2 by 2 squares, and I'm going to cut a few of those right here. Like that. And let's cut just a couple more. Like that. Then out of our 1 1/4-inch strip, 1 1/2-inch strip, I'm going to cut my selvages off of that one. And this one, we just need 1 1/2-inch squares. And so we're going to go ahead and cut those at 1.5. We'll just cut a few of those so we can get started here. Just like that. So I'll set these aside up here. We'll put these down here. And we are on our way. So let me show you how to put this together. So this is just a heart block. And the way she does it is really cool because it all stems around a square. And we had them make these at 5 inches so that they actually will work with any pre-cut you want to put them next to. But for this one, we're going to cut these down to 4.5. So I have a little 4.5-inch ruler right here. And I like to use that when I cut because you can center it up on there. So you have plenty of room on all 4 sides to trim this out. And so I'm just laying this over, eyeballing it, and I'm going to cut this out. So it's just exactly 4.5. Let me turn this around. Right here. And you're going to choose the words that you want. And I just want you to feel, honestly, I know it might sound a little strange to some of you, but I believe words have power. You know, when you tell somebody, you know, have a great day, that changes their day, or it has the power to. And so I love these words, and I love that we get to use them in a quilt that's going to bring comfort or strength or togetherness, or it's going to help them thrive, whatever it is. When they read that word, it's just going to be helpful to them. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our little center square, and I'm just going to line these up so you can see. So one strip of color on either side, and these are our 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles. And then we have one of these across the top as well, like this. And then down here on the bottom, we're going to put our 2 4.5 by 2.5 white rectangles on the bottom to make the heart. So now we have our frame set up, and to make it a heart, we need to snowball some corners. So our 1.5 inch squares are going to be the middle of these two right here. These are going to be 1.5s. Our 2-inch squares are going to be out here on the sides like this, just like that. And then down here, fabric B, which is our 2.5 inch square, is going to be on the end of here like this. And these will be sewn just like this to bring that heart together. And then down here at the bottom, we're going to take our 2 colored squares that are 2.5, and we're going to put those right here in the middle. And we're going to sew from the outside to the inside here. And I like to lay this out so I can see which way all my angles are going. So these 2 pieces right here, I'm going to take this one, and I'm just going to sew corner to corner on these 2 pieces. And I can just cut my thread and then rotate my block and sew the other side. And this is one where they're opposite, so you need to make sure that you lay them out and that they're going the right direction. And I'm going to set that back over there. And this one we're going to bring over, and I'm going to start on the large side right here. And sew corner to corner. Clip my thread, and then I'll come over here and sew this little square down. All right, so now let's do the sides of this one. And so I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to sew corner to corner from the inside to the out here. And I will lay that one back. And you want to make sure that all of these are coming into the center. And so this one will go from the outside in. Several of them, when I first started making them, I did them all the same direction, and they were wrong. We had to redo those, but that's all right. So this now goes down toward the center, and then these over here, we're going to go from the outside in. And these little mantras, when I say outside in and things like that, it has to be words that make sense to you. To my brain, that means I'm starting from the middle of the strip and sewing toward the outside. And then this one too, over here, we're going from, wait, let me look, inside to the out. So I say a lot of those words and funny things like that, but that's to help me. And, you know, if it doesn't help you or you need to say whatever you need to say, just make it make sense, because what we're doing is we're making these turn in, both point into the center, and they'll be pressed opposite ways. So I'm going to iron this out like that. And I'm going to trim this off and press it out. And then we're going to trim this off and press it out. And you'll see, you know, as I start ironing these back, you'll see how this heart comes together. Oh, and together's our word. It's perfect. And then up here, I'm going to trim both sides. So I'll trim this side off and this side off. And we will iron these out. Right here. And the same thing over here. Trim this one and trim this one. And there it is right there. All right, so I'm going to start by sewing rows together so that I can put my whole center together, because this is obviously one whole block. So I'm going to sew these two up here and do sections. This will be my top row. And we're starting at 1/4 inch right along the edge. And then I'll finger press this open. And then around the word, we're going to sew the 2 pieces to either side. So we'll sew this one 1/4 inch. And this one also 1/4 inch. Make sure you get it on there the right way. And then I'm going to finger press these out to the outside. And then this one right here, again, we're just going to sew this bottom one together like this. And then, of course, we can now sew the whole block together. So we'll lay this piece on here. And there is no seam to match up on this, so just make sure that it's even across the top. And I like to make sure my ends match up. And then we can go right across the top. If you have one side that's a little bigger, you can put that side on the bottom. And then it will draw, the feed dogs will draw in that fabric and make it fit. There we go. And if it fits, you know your 1/4 inches are pretty good. All right, now let me press this. Oh, it's so cute. And just like that, look at that, we get this cute little heart. It's a darling little heart, and it's a little heart that now has a bit more power to it because it has meaning with the word in the middle. So let's talk about how many of these we need. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 30 blocks. We've chosen 30 of our squares to make this heart out of. And you can make it bigger if you want to. And this is just a straight edge sashing. So right here we've used 2-inch sashings. And your block here should be, let me see what size it is. I was going to say should be 8.5, but I'm not sure about that exactly. Yes, it's 8.5 by 8.5. So you're going to cut your little 2-inch strip, 8.5 right here, and sew this row together. And then this little row, you're going to do a 2-inch square that we cut from our layer cake, and then our 8-inch sashing, or 8.5-inch sashing, 2-inch square, 8.5-inch sashing. So just like that, and the whole thing comes together. We did an outer border, so we started our sashing with a little square and put a sashing on the outside of this. And then we have a 4.5-inch border out here. Let's look at the back. The back is the rose back, the batik. It's beautiful. And this has, our quilting pattern is the hearts and ribbons. And this makes a quilt that is 57 by 66. Now, while I have done this to bring awareness to breast cancer, there are lots of illnesses and lots of sicknesses that are out there, and they all, most of them, have a color assigned to them. And so you can make this in any color you want. I feel like this panel is just such a gift, because as you have this over you, maybe while you're going through chemo, maybe while you're just struggling to keep your food down, or maybe while you're watching your loved one, these words are the words that are going to help you through. They have power, they mean something, and as you put this quilt together, I hope it blesses your life in some way. So we hope you enjoyed this tutorial on the lovely quilt from the Missouri Star Quilt Company. Hi everybody, it's Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company. We hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you aren't already part of the Missouri Star Quilt Company family, be sure to subscribe so you won't miss a thing. And if you click that bell, it'll notify you every time a new tutorial comes out. See you next Friday.